Well, hello and welcome to another weekly Wedding Prep Live. Happy Thursday to you. It is 12 o'clock Eastern, and we are here as we are every single week with so many of you live in the chat. I'm so glad you could make it if you're watching live. If you're watching on the replay, also welcome to you. Feel free to drop a comment. But if you're live, I love to see you in the chat. That is what makes this so fun is, we hang out every single week. It starts to feel a bit like going down to your local coffee shop and seeing everybody sitting there. So this is a place for us wedding officiants and celebrants from all over the world to share our wins, our challenges, our fears, when something didn't go well. Maybe we thought that it would be a lot worse than it actually was. That's typically my experience. The odd time something can be worse than you think it would have been. But anyway, let's put that aside. This is a great place. And I got an email right before we went live from somebody saying, hey, can you help me think through this thing? I'd love to hear from other members because, as I say, it is really good to get kind of a dry run at things, even in your imagination, for things that can go unexpected in a ceremony itself, but also in the ceremony creation process with your couple. But that said, you don't want to catastrophize, right? You don't want to be worried about taking that first step, and so you don't do it. So in my experience, things are never as bad as we might think they are in our imaginations. My kids are 11 and 13. I'm telling them this all the time right before, I don't know, a competition or something. It's like the sense of, oh my gosh, this is so scary. This can happen, that can happen. As an entrepreneur, I've had to think about that where, you try to think 10 steps ahead, 15 steps ahead. What if this happens? What if the market crashes? What if nobody wants what I provide? What if this and that? Go ahead, move from one step to the next. That's what we're doing as wedding officiants, but it certainly helps when we do it together. And especially, if you want to kick the tires on something coming up this weekend or something a couple said or did, or if you're growing your officiant practice, maybe you have an idea, you want to kind of vet it with some people here in the chat. This is what makes this time so amazing is there are so many of you who are jumping in, saying where you're from, giving us the weather forecast. And I don't think I jumped in the chat earlier before I went live, which I usually do. I just didn't get a chance here today. But please log into Google or YouTube and tell us where you're watching from. Tell us the weather, of course. That's absolutely obligatory. We need to know if it's a nice day or not, where you're watching from, or it's all relative, right? Maybe what is a nice day to you would be horrifying to someone else, which is also important for us to know. So thank you again for those of you who are jumping in live. This is a place to ask a question. And as I've said before, sometimes that question is, I'll read it. I read every question I get in the chat. I will respond, but so many incredible members have feedback and things to say, answer to your question. So if you do ask a question, I will do my best to see it. If I don't, make sure you ask it again or get my attention somehow in that regard. But there will be folks in the chat who are more than happy to share with you, and I absolutely love that. So first on the wall today was actually Cantor Mark, who is back in Thousand Oaks, California, after an amazing trip in Honduras. I'm sure that's where you joined us from last week, officiating a wedding. That's absolutely incredible. And then Ben is here, North Dakota, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, that's still not spring. Tomorrow is spring, but it certainly hasn't sprung here in New Brunswick either. We had a 20-degree day last week. Maybe you did too, which like everybody was in shorts and T-shirts, and that's like 70s Fahrenheit, I think. American, 70s American. And it was absolutely glorious. It smashed all the records. And then it plummeted back down the next day to like -10 Celsius. So that makes it feel even worse. So we are just trying to emerge from the thaw. But I do know Cantor Mark is giving us the, I don't know if you gave us the temperature, but man, it is scorching. 90 plus. I've heard that like California is absolutely, so it's like, I want warmer weather, but that would be a little much. And then Reverend Claudia here from sunny shores of Lake Erie in southern Ontario. Good to see you, Claudia. So thanks for jumping in early, Mark and Ben, who is also going on a cruise in the Bahamas. Speaking of nice weather, I'd be counting down the days as well. And then Reverend Claudia is here as well. So welcome to everyone, and thanks to those of you who tagged the wall nice and early. Sabrina, we missed you last week. You are here, a little out of character for this time of year in the Pacific Northwest. Oh, I'm reading Jerry's. I don't know how that happened. There we go. We'll get to you, Jerry. Because I was like, Sabrina's not in the Pacific Northwest, San Antonio, right? 84 this afternoon. And you have a wedding rehearsal tonight. That's a really good segue into a question I got right before I went live about wedding rehearsals. And kind of sharing our experiences around that. And the question really was around, hey, I'd love to know how other people run rehearsals, or not just run rehearsals. I guess the question was specifically around, has something unexpected happened in a wedding rehearsal? And I thought that would be great to discuss here. It would also be great to discuss in members only office hours. I really think I want to bring that up on the last Tuesday of the month, which I think this year, got to check. And I say this month, the last Tuesday of the month is March 31st, and it is like the last Tuesday. So in a couple of Tuesdays from now, we are all members who purchase the course, unboringweddingacademy.com. If you make that purchase, you are a member. And we have kind of a Zoom time where we kind of chat more. And so I was thinking, it's a little bit difficult for everyone to share their rehearsal stories in the chat. It would be really great to do that together in more of like a video conversation format. So thanks for that idea. Some ideas are really great for here, and you can feel free to do that if you're not a member and you want to share wedding rehearsal fears or things that happen unexpected. I have the wedding rehearsal of all wedding rehearsal stories where the mom of the bride and the bride started screaming at each other. That was unexpected. That's one of those things where you're like, oh, I can handle just about anything after this, right? A lot of times wedding parties are already into the sauce. So there is that sometimes, just managing people who are under the influence and that kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, it's one of those things. You don't need to worry about everything that could happen. And sometimes it's helpful to hear every horror story. It certainly is fun. But also then it can give you an outsized sense of dread or fear around something that could happen. And it's just not the case. 99.9% of my wedding rehearsals, I did say, I think a couple of weeks, not last week, the wedding rehearsal is like my favorite part of wedding officiating. I absolutely love it. So if you're a professional officiant or getting into it, I would say do the wedding rehearsals. Put them in as part of your package, part of your pricing. That's what I do. I bundle it in because I absolutely love it. And I think it's so critical for the feeling that everybody has on the day. When you can show up the day before, not just run the rehearsal, but also connect with the couple's loved ones and laugh and get to know each other a little bit. So when you show up on the wedding day, it's kind of like familiar people. You already hung out for an hour the night before. That's one of those things that is really priceless about it. It's something that you can't trade. Sarah's here as well. Good to see you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Reverend Claudia is kind of like tongue-in-cheeking about Canada here. Shorts weather when it's -3. I don't know about that. But yeah, we Canadians are hardy. I'll tell you, like I said, when it's 10 or 15 degrees, the shorts certainly come on, because after months of sub-zero temperatures, when you have that sun, there's crocuses popping up on my lawn. That day when it was 20 degrees, flowers came up, and then of course they were like, oh my God, and they went back down. So if you put your shorts on, it's a bit of a, you've jumped the gun, I think. Josephine is here. Good to see you from Schenectady, New York. And it's cloudy and you're baking away, I'm sure. Jerry, good morning. A little out of character for this time of year in the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures stretching into the low 70s. Okay, so you're getting that weather that we had on the East Coast last week. Yeah, that is pretty warm. And I think I saw an article that Vancouver had its like first 0 snow winter. in a long time. So I know in the West Coast there, even in Canada, you're not getting the snow that maybe you did at one time. Chris, good to see you. Good afternoon from sunny and cold North Carolina. And Sabrina says, where everybody knows your name. Yes, this is Cheers right here, basically, for just an hour a week. And you don't even have to drink if you don't want. I've got a decaf coffee here. Good to see you, Paul, from Trumbull, Connecticut. Lisa is here from New Jersey. Paul has a last minute preparation for a 3 o'clock wedding today. So Sabrina's running off to a rehearsal. Paul's got a wedding. You're saying last minute. I wonder how that came together. How last minute are we talking, Paul? I know you are a pro, and you must have gotten contacted. And yeah, I'd love to know what last minute means for you. It's all relative. So good on you. Glad to see that you're locking down couples and bringing them those unboring weddings. Good afternoon from Cleveland, Ohio. Dale, good to see you. Glad you are here. And John says, oops, I'll catch you on the rerun. Okay, so John is in and out. So like I say, I came here with a few things today based on some questions that I have gotten before, either on YouTube comments or questions on some of my videos, or people reaching out directly to me in email saying, what about this? What about that? Sometimes those questions are directly to me. And I think, oh, well, a lot of people would benefit from this. But if you have a question, I am here to answer it. So feel free to start popping those questions in the chat. I know sometimes in March, depending on where you are, we're in a bit of a downtime in terms of, wedding volume. But as we see, Paul has a last minute wedding. Boom. He just took that. And Sabrina's out to a rehearsal. And good to see you from Hey Unboring Fam from Loves Park, Illinois. I love how that we're like all unborings, which is great. So there are members here in the chat. There are some who are not members. Like I say, if you want to become a member, unboringweddingacademy.com, you get the course. You get access to Officiantly for one ceremony. If you want to upgrade to unlimited ceremonies for a year, you can do that once you purchase the course. Officiant.ly. That's our ceremony automation platform builder, and it saves you hours of time. And I kind of wanted to talk today. The wedding report came out with really helpful advice for wedding pros in general about how to make sure that you are, well, I would say, I don't know about making sure, but assess yourself on how much money you are making per hour. This is one of those sustainability questions, right? If you take $1,000 for a client and you are a DJ versus a florist versus a wedding planner versus an officiant versus a whatever, that can vary whether or not you got paid very well for that or paid very poorly for that. And it really depends on how many hours you put into the actual client. How much time are you putting into serving them? And then, of course, dividing up those hours based on the fee that you charge will give you your hourly rate. And then you can determine whether or not that is sustainable in the long term for you. So this was from the wedding report, and they were encouraging based on, again, barbell pricing that we've talked about here in other weeks, where kind of like the K-shaped economy, which is actually terrible. That is, people who are like in the top percent are just getting more and more wealth and income. And people who are in the bottom, like 50%, are actually going down, struggling more, having less disposable income. And so because of that kind of thing, the cliche, the richest are getting richer and the people who are less well off are getting less and less well off. That actually is having an effect on weddings. The wedding industry is seeing this, where you are seeing the top spenders spend even more. So luxury weddings are getting even more luxurious. But, in terms of quantity, you might not see the same number of weddings in that market or in general. And then you're seeing much more like budget weddings happening. People want to keep getting married, but if people are squeezed in all regards these days, then you will see couples cutting costs and cutting corners. And of course, that has an effect on anybody who is in the wedding industry. So it's very important for you to start thinking about, if you are providing kind of luxe for us wedding officiants, if you're providing like luxe wedding officiant services, and so I would say, throwing, like I say, for me, it's one package, throwing in the rehearsal, including the love story, multiple script revisions, giving the couple total control over their draft, the white glove, the full service, everything you can possibly throw into a wedding ceremony. That's what I do, and that's my only level of service. But the wedding report was saying, if you want to capture that growing market that is spending less, then you do need to think about if that is a trade-off you're willing to make. So somebody like me, if I wanted to increase my weddings in this kind of market, and I would say I've been, professionally officiating as unboring weddings since 2017. And so that's like 9 years of officiating. And I think in all the 9 years, including the COVID blip where you saw like no weddings, but then the next year was an absolute avalanche of weddings after people started, venues started opening up again. Since 2017, these are really unprecedented times in terms of people struggling with affordability and their willingness to spend on weddings. And so it is a time, like I say, if I said, okay, I'm trying to grow my officiating business to be full-time, which some of us, we are officiating as a side hustle, and that's good. We're fine with the levels. Others of us say, no, I want to capture as many weddings as I can. So that's where you're seeing people get really creative. I'm going to give Reverend Claudia a shout out who has, a little wedding kind of chapel or wedding area on her own property, as far as I understand it. And I know some of you do this, where you are actually you're actually finding your own little space to officiate and capture those smaller weddings. I had a wedding today. I had an inquiry today. Somebody just saying, and I thought it was spam at first, because I'm starting to get more spam of the people saying, they're very good at. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but like, you take an inquiry, it sounded a bit sketchy. What's your availability and what's your pricing? And I said, you tell me, and what's, my pricing is that, oh, that's great. And, I said, what's your venue? And they said, oh, the Garcelon Civic Center, which is like a recreational facility right downtown in St. Stephen. So I was like, that would be a first for me. And then I said, well, that's great. Let's get together. Let's meet up for a chem check. And sure enough, the email that came back was like, oh, that's great. We don't really need a chem check. We just want to hire you outright. Now your fee is $1,000. And what I'd like to do is mail you $1,500, that whole thing of like, we're going to send you a check. Can you send us I was like, that's it. Goodbye. So look out for those weird, sketchy ones. But then I had one that I thought was likely spam or a scam like that. And really it was just somebody, because they said, we'd like a small ceremony. What's your fee? What's your availability? And I said, what are your dates? And here is my fee. And where are you getting married? And then they said, we'd like to get married at, and they said a very legitimate place. And they gave me 4 Sundays. And so now it's like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. But they did say a small civil ceremony. And for me, I only have one price. Like I don't scale my ceremony sizes like so many of you maybe do, and I'm walking you through this to say, this is something you might want to consider based on that kind of K-shaped weddings we're seeing. If you just want to keep doing the luxe ceremonies, and maybe you're a preferred vendor in that, that's great. But if you want to start capturing the basic civil ceremonies that are quicker, this couples are scaling down, then you might want to think about listing that on your website as well. And again, one of the ways to do that is to decide, okay, what does that look like? Like, am I willing, for example, am I willing to say no rehearsal? Well, not typically for a bigger ceremony, but what if couples are saying, well, we don't have a wedding party. We just want you to come out there and walk us through vows with 20 people or so. Well, then, maybe it is time to start thinking about that, because if the market that's spending less is actually growing, and I would say like never before in 9 years because of things that are going on in the world geopolitically and economically, then, we've got to start talking about this as wedding officiants. You might want to be flexible. You might not want to think, oh, I'm going to just keep doubling down on what I've been doing. It might be time to change some things up. So that's something to consider. In terms of the formula for officiating a wedding, I would say that's where you start to kind of do some math. Sit down with a pen and paper and say, okay, am I going to include, for example, travel in the total steps of the client process? Am I going to take that out? I think if you want to assess your hourly rate, you're going to charge the couple X number of dollars and then say, well, what am I going to include in that personally for me to decide how much money I'm being compensated? And then you might need to adjust your price, or you might need to adjust how many things you include in a specific package at a specific price point, right? So that's really important to consider. Now, I do want to kind of give you a sketch of my hourly rate based on travel boundaries that I've set up, things like that, things that I include, things that I don't. But I don't want to miss any comments in the chat here. I do see some sailing by. I'll just put a pause on that and say hello to Travis coming in from SoCal, where it is hot and sunny. Yes, 90 plus sticky in California. I could probably take that for a couple days, and then I'd be like, I'm good. I'm good. Paul's saying just reviewing to be as comfortable as possible. Good to see. I'm doing my first wedding walk this weekend. It's where the venues in the area do an open house. Very exciting. I think I saw something like that on my Instagram, and I wonder if it's the same one. I saw like the wedding walk, and I was like, this is interesting. That's a neat thing to call it. So venues in the area are doing an open house. So multiple venues open their doors. Is that what you're saying? I'd love more information on that. A, and B, I think it's super cool that you are committing to invest in yourself and your business by attending that. That's absolutely awesome. Paul says, anyone bring a spouse along to make suggestions for improvement? I'm not sure the context of that. Last minute preparation for a 3:00 wedding today. Just reviewing to be as comfortable as possible. Yes. Anyone bring a spouse along to make suggestions for improvement? Barbell economy, tough for everyone, making the middle class smaller. Yeah, this is, I'd say it's absolutely brutal what's happening. And it's not sustainable, that's for sure. And I'm not getting political here, but I am saying like we are seeing a squeeze, things, wages and economic activity decreasing, and the price of things going up, right? So you are seeing that's going to affect wedding couples for sure, and we got to think about that. There we go. Lakefront elopements on the shores of Lake Erie. So like this is where Reverend Claudia has really captured this when you have your own little space and you say, sure, show up and I will lead you through your wedding. Like that's kind of like a recession-proof wedding model, and I think that is really, really smart. So well done on that. Sometimes I wonder, if you were in a more like I'm right in town, and if I started marrying people right on my property, I would definitely get some sort of zoning violation for sure. But if you are in a more remote area, maybe with more property, and you could do it discreetly, or maybe you get some sort of clearance or zoning on that. That is a really great bet. So let me just kind of break down for you, because I'm not seeing any questions yet in the chat, but feel free, please. This is your time to ask me or anyone in the chat any concerns you have, any questions at all. So here's how I approach kind of like, my process. I've talked about it before. In fact, when I pull up Unboring the Officiantly program, like you can see the steps of the process here. This is the actual ceremony steps in Officiantly, right? You've got your wedding workshop. How much time does that take? You got your ceremony script draft. So actually sitting down and writing the script. I would say this is one of the most time-intensive parts a lot of the time, depending on how much you have to add. Questionnaire responses, then casting the love story caster or writing the love story, and then finishing out the speech here is the second last step, and then preparing the final draft. So, that's the actual ceremony. But what about when you actually, oh, this is strange. Did I just do something strange? I think I just did something. There we go. What are the actual steps to like locking down a couple? So my price point is $1,000, which, nice and easy for the math here, although I'm not all that confident in my math skills. So we'll see. So I say I charge a couple of $1,000, And that's, like I say, my Lux fee. That's my all-in fee. The other day, I had a couple reach out to me last month and say, we just want a signing. And I said, okay, so $150 to just meet you, do the signing. And that was about 25 minutes, half an hour total with them. I met somewhere 5 minutes away. We signed their papers, and off they went. So I filed their papers and everything, and they were quite happy because lawyers charge upward $200 plus for that. So they got a deal. They got white glove service in the sense where I met them wherever they wanted. I signed their papers. I was willing to do vows with them really quickly or declarations, but they didn't want to do any of that. They don't need to do any of that in New Brunswick, so it was super quick. I don't advertise that service. It's not on my website, but they reached out and they asked. And I think I told you about how that really, you never know what that kind of thing is going to lead to, because there was a lady there who was their witness, who is actually in charge of tourism in St. Andrews, a nearby town where I officiate a lot. And she said, well, now I'm going to send couples your way when they want this kind of experience or something quick in St. Andrews. So I had never met her before. She didn't know about me before. And suddenly I did this one signing, which off the books, typically, like I say, in the sense of I don't advertise this. It's not something I typically do. And I believe that will pay off in the future with other couples. And so whenever you do something like go to a wedding walk or that kind of thing, you are investing in your business, because this is the long game, right? So back to the number of hours I spend, when I lock down a couple, what do I have to do? Well, they inquire. So I spend a couple minutes. I sent a template response to them. Hey, yes, I'm available. Let's meet for a chem check or a vibe check, either in person or online. Now, typically, if it's online, that's like 30 minutes. We set a time and a date, again, another 5 minutes of emailing. Then I send them the Zoom link. So what's that? Another 5-10 minutes setting that up. That's a template. Again, as you do this more and more, you want to templateify everything. And then we talk. Typically, a Zoom call is no longer than half an hour. So that's half an hour right off the bat, just to have the chem check before I book them, right? Now, if it's in person, I'm likely going to go to a coffee shop very close by. Make sure it's close by. You don't want to be driving all over for prospective couples. And you might chat a bit longer. You might get there a bit earlier. You might buy yourself a coffee. You might sit down. Sometimes the conversation goes longer when you're in person. So you got to think about that. And so we're talking maybe an hour for the chem check or vibe check, half an hour if it's online. Now, let's say they book you. So again, the template, I send them their payment link, and then they pay. So that's another just few minutes. I would say this is all part of that 1 hour of actually retaining a client. That's kind of acquisition is 1 hour. And then they pay, and I typically reply and say, great. Now, if the wedding is next year, I'll say I'll contact you 3 months before next year. But if it's not, if it's much closer than that, I'll say, okay, now it's time to, and whether it's near or far, this is the same amount of time, where the next step is to send them an email and say, let's book the wedding workshop. So there might be some back and forth here. Again, 5 or 10 minutes of emailing in total, because you use a template. And some of you use Calendly or something like that, make it super easy. Book me in here. Great. We'll meet for our chem check. So for our wedding workshop, rather. So the chem check and acquiring the couple is about an hour, give or take. And then you have your wedding workshop, which is 1 hour. And that's where you sit down. And now we're kind of into the Officiantly template here, where you are going to sit down with your couple and you are going to walk them through, right, all of the things that can, might, could, will happen in their ceremony. So this wedding workshop is 1 hour. And I always say this, an hour max. Now, do you want to include, because this is, aside from maybe rehearsal and the wedding, this is the only kind of place or time where you need to travel. So again, I always got the couple way back. I used to think I'd have to travel all over Toronto when I got started to meet these couples, and then I realized, it was actually with Young Hip and Married when I worked for this company. No, have them come to like the end of your street. There was a Whole Foods there. I was like, oh, that's amazing. So I'm going to say the same thing to you. Couples are willing to travel to book you, and they're willing to travel to work with you, especially if you just make it part of the expectation. We're going to meet near me. Great. They know to go to their planner's office. They know to go to their florist's office. So this is part of the expectation when they're getting married. And I just took that for granted, but I think a lot of you need to know you do not need to travel all over to meet your couples. Choose a favorite haunt of yours as close as you can get and ask them to come visit you. So they, come and sit down with you. That is another hour, maybe an hour and a half when you include your travel, you're getting there early and you're and leaving and returning home, that kind of thing. I would say it shouldn't be farther than 10 or 15 minutes away. So what are we up to now? We're up to maybe 2 hours with acquiring the client and then doing the wedding workshop. Could be less than that, but we'll be generous and say it was 2 hours acquiring them and doing the wedding workshop, give or take, but we're talking around 2 hours right now. Okay. So, when I think I charge $1,000 and I'm 2 hours in and I've acquired them, I've met with them, and I've got everything I need for their script coming out of the wedding workshop. Well, then I sit down and I write their script. Well, this used to be such an arduous process. This used to take so long, copying and pasting manually, changing names, doing all the processional order. But now with Officiantly, and this really is what I designed Officiantly for, was to hugely cut down on this kind of like repetitious, mundane admin. Because now, of course, with Officiantly, it's already there. You generate the script with a click coming from the wedding workshop into the ceremony script area. You go from here, you fill out everything, you walk them through the wedding workshop format, and then you just go into ceremony script draft, and it's all here, right? You're going to want to read through it. You might want to add some sections, but of course we've got the Ask AI section, which is really makes it super easy. You can add an element. You can have AI write it. You can say, okay, I want to go in here. I'll clean this up really quick. But in terms of the processional order like this, it should already be in there. There's no copying and pasting. So a process that, quite frankly, used to take half an hour to 40 minutes before, copying a Google Doc, then bringing up the spreadsheet, then looking at the spreadsheet and looking at the Google Doc, and then going back and forth and manually copying and pasting and adding things to the template, completely changing it. It went from about half an hour, 45 minutes to really what I'd say takes about 5 or 10 minutes now, depending on what they want added here. So like if you want a sand mixing, again, you can get AI to write it. It will not sound like AI, hopefully. And if it does, you need to change it. So I always say AI is a great assistant. It should never be the master. It should never be the final product, right? I talked 2 weeks ago about how a couple posted on Reddit that they were devastated that their officiant obviously used AI. AI can sound terrible, but you can see here how this doesn't sound typically like AI. But for the elements, you're going to have in Officiantly, you're going to have my template loaded in. The opening remarks are already there, the way I would say them, the way I write them. The opening to your speech is there. Friends, here they are to get married. They're perfect for each other. In terms of what you want to say if a loved one has passed away, my wording is in there. Vows, I have my recommended vows here, that kind of thing. And this is all preloaded into Officiantly. So for me, this step is literally typically 5 minutes or so. So it's almost like, man, I don't even know how to add this into my hourly breakdown because it's almost like the equivalent. It used to be such a time-consuming part, and now it's the equivalent of sending an email or something like that. So because so much of it is ready to go, and then you can have your template that you select for a ceremony, and then again with AI saying, brush this up, or can you make this sound a little bit more romantic, or can you take my words and make them sound a little bit more lighthearted or something like that, and it does it for you. Again, never fully depending on it, using it as an assistant and using that undo button if you need to, right? That's really important when you're using AI. So then after you've done that, so again, that's 5 minutes or so, let's say 10 or 15 max, creating the ceremony script, you send it to them with one click. So this also used to be an annoying part of the process where now you would have to create 2 emails, get the link from Google Docs, paste it in, find your email template. Well, now invite couple is right here with one click. You click it, it says, "Are you sure you want to send this?" Boom, you click the button. So that's literally 10 seconds now, where it used to be 5 or 10 minutes before. So steps that used to take like half an hour, 40 minutes now take 5 to 10 minutes. And steps that used to take 5 to 10 minutes now take literally 5 to 10 seconds. So you see, I think we're like cutting things down by about 90% or so with Officiantly. But this all goes toward how much time am I spending in any given client, right? Well, this continues with Officiantly for the story questionnaire, because now when I sent the questionnaire to the couple, I used to have to, and I taught this in Unboring Wedding Academy. Those of you who are old school, the OGs, we would create Google Forms manually for the couple based on a template, but you'd have to make the new questionnaire, and then you'd have to pull up an email template, and then you would get the link for the questionnaire and you'd paste it in, kind of like you did with the Google Doc for the script, and then you would paste in their email addresses, and then you would send that to them. Well, now you literally just click couple story questionnaire, invite couple, there it is, boom, send. With one click, you just send it. Right here, I've already sent it, so it's got resend. But if you haven't sent it to them once, you just click the button and it'll kick them out to both of them. So again, that used to take 5 to 10 minutes. Now it takes 5 to 10 seconds. The responses were a big thing because you would get the responses on the Google form, and then you would have to create the storyboard before. So the way I used to teach it is take the couple's responses, create a separate Google Doc, put the responses in, and that way you're going to have that information there when you start fresh writing the story. Okay, well, let's put a pin in that, because now you see you get their story responses, and this is another thing that you used to have to do is part of their response would be email addresses from the couple of friends and family who they want you to survey. Well, now when they reply, those friends and family emails are already in the system here. So when I go over here and I click invite respondents, these are all going to be automatically already there, because the system Officiantly saw the friends and family emails addresses that they added in their questionnaire and immediately just ported them in here automatically. So you will not have to do anything manually here. You won't have to look in your couple's responses and say, okay, oh, Peter, and here's Peter's email. I got to tell. Before, you had to create a new questionnaire, then take the link from that, and then create, I remember doing this sometimes for 8 people, say, an email for each of them, or BCC. You can do that as well manually. And then you put, the template in. Hi there, I'm the officiant. I would like you to fill out this survey. Thank you very much. Either you send it individually or BCC. Everybody was all manually pasting over 8 or 10 individual email addresses. Well, here it's already there, and you just send with a click, and it kicks it out to your couple's friends and family. So again, that used to take 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes, depending on how many emails you had to pour it over. Well, now it's just seconds, right? So everything but after the ceremony script draft, which just takes 5 to 15 minutes now, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, these steps, literally clicks of a button. And then you get to the love story caster. Now, I got to say, this is where I used to say, take all of your couple's answers, all of the friends and family answers, put them in a document, and now you're ready to write the story. And I did teach, this takes about 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Well, now with the love story caster, you go in here, right? And your couple's answers are already there. There's no manual copy or pasting. And then you just go to the love story caster here and you click generate the story. And using my recipe, it's going to create the love story exactly as I would write it. Now, Ben and a few of us members have talked about how, like, sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes you're going to change some things. You're going to spend, instead of 3 or 4 hours now, you're going to spend maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you're really fussy, changing things around, punching up the story, making it sound more like you. But now, again, how much time have we spent? Let's go back now to all these steps. We acquired the couple in half an hour to an hour, say. We did the wedding workshop. Let's give that an hour and a half. So we're at 2 hours. The ceremony script draft, we created their ceremony script, 15, 20 minutes, and then we just send other things in seconds. Now the love story caster takes, I would say, 20 minutes or so, let's say. So now we're up to like, what are we at? 4 hours now, generously. Now 2 hours. No, 3 hours. And then coming out of that, the speech and storyboard. So the story is going to be all in here. Now I've generated, it's not showing accurately here because I've already generated the final draft. But here you're going to get your couples, and you can see the tutorial videos in Officiantly on YouTube. But you're going to see the story that was generated plus the love about sections. And this one, I would say you still have to do manually, what the couple loves about each other and what everybody loves about them. And I would say that's another 15 minutes or so. So, you do 15 minutes of polishing up the story that the love story caster wrote, and then 15 minutes or so what the friends and family love about the couple, and all the answers are there right there in that section, and what the couple love about each other. You don't have to change much, but I do teach how to do all this in Unboring Wedding Academy. So that's maybe half an hour on the love abouts. This step used to take at least 5 hours, I would say, writing the story and then working on the love abouts. That was the huge amount of my time. Well, we've just taken a step that used to take about 5 hours and trimmed it down to, again, half an hour, 40 minutes. So what are we up to now? For 2 hours to acquire and do the wedding workshop, half an hour to generate the story and send everything else. Let's say that's another hour. So now we're up to like 3-ish hours. Then you can include the rehearsal. And so for me, my zone of service is 20 minutes away. Am I going to include travel here? For me, the $1,000 is no farther than like half an hour from my house. So that's 2 round trips, one to the rehearsal and back, and then one to the wedding and back. So let's just say that's 2 hours of travel. So if we were up to 3 hours before, now we're up to 5 hours with travel, and then the rehearsal, I'm on site there for another hour. That's 6 hours. And then at the wedding, I show up 45 minutes before, and the wedding is typically another half an hour ceremony, 15 minutes after, then I leave. So that's an hour and a half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rehearsal 6, 7.5 hours, I think, is the total amount of time that I spend. Let's say 8, just for other admin stuff, following up with them after, mailing the wedding license in, that kind of thing. So that puts my rate at 1,000 divided by 8. Okay, so that is my hourly rate. 1,000 divided by 8 equals $125 an hour. Right? So how do I feel about that in terms of wedding officiating? Now, this is where you can then say, if I want to start offering smaller ceremonies and the rate I feel good about is an hour, $125 an hour, well, what can I take out of that process then? Maybe I drop the rehearsal, so that saves an hour of driving plus the rehearsal. That's 2 hours. So maybe I drop $250 off the price. If it's just a quick civil ceremony and I don't include the rehearsal, everything else stays the same. Again, if there's any sort of wedding party or wedding march or processional, I'm asking for a rehearsal. So for me, if I'm offering a lower price package, I would probably say no wedding processional and no wedding party. I would feel really good about that. I'm kind of working this out with you in real time. Because that's kind of like I say, I'm getting these inquiries now, and it's like, do I now then actually take a few of these? Well, if I want to keep my $125 an hour rate and not feel like, oh, if I do these smaller ceremonies, I'm taking a pay cut, then I got to find a way to drop time and equal pricing. So if we just determine that I'm $125 an hour and the rehearsal is actually 2 hours of that full 8-hour process, then I can drop my price, $250, still do the acquisition, the wedding workshop, everything else, still give them that deluxe ceremony, but shave 2 hours off the process and $250, then that's fair to me. Okay. And if your process, if you don't have Officiantly and you take longer, maybe it's probably, it used to take me 12 to 15 hours. That's what I used to say before Officiantly came out. I said, look, the ceremony process is going to take you 12 to 15 hours, depending on travel or that kind of thing. But that 5 hours of actually writing the ceremony, well, now I would say it takes about half an hour. But only you can decide. But I just wanted to give you kind of the bare bones of how you sketch this out. And then that's how you decide what kind of price point you want to ask for, what kind of compensation you need, but then also how can you scale and say, look, okay, now I need to find $125 off, and how many hours of that is going to knock off. Hopefully that made a lot of sense for you. So any other questions or comments here? And then I'll move on to a couple other things that I got questions about. Several venues downtown here in Illinois open the doors to the public for viewing. Perfect networking opportunity. So this is that walk thing, which is really cool. So, and I think that's cool that they're all downtown Illinois, nice and close to each other, and you can walk through. And that's a great way to meet vendors. I wonder, is there going to be something that like signals you as a participant in this? Are there lanyards that you can wear to be identifying with this event? I just wonder, like in terms of networking, like obviously they look available if you're at a venue, but are they asking people to register so they can be identified? I wonder. That looks, it seems really cool. And I'd just like to know more. It's downtown Illinois, the Illinois Wedding Walk event. I want to look more into that. That's really, really cool. And it helps when multiple venues are close together and people can participate in that way. Any questions about what I said there for all that time in terms of your fee, offering multiple packages, how you calculate your fee, your process, that kind of thing? Open to your questions around that before I get into something else I mentioned. But it is a bit of a maybe slightly quieter group here today. Sometimes I get inundated with questions and I can't answer them fast enough. And today I'm just kind of happy to be moseying through some of the things I came on here to present. I got a great question about, Mark, have couples ever asked you for video of you officiating a wedding? That's a really interesting question. I'd like to ask you in the chat, have any of you had a couple ask you for videos of you officiating a wedding? I will always, I've said before, I believe, of course, that having reviews and photos of you officiating are absolute gold, right? This is kind of the proof that you know what you're doing. In order to certify people, unboringwedding.com/certified, I do say I want to see photos of you officiating. I want to see a review, at least one. You got to have a Google My Business. So, you know, couples want to see that experience, that kind of street cred that you have done this before, you know what you're doing. But video, this is a new one. So somebody said, Mark, has any couples asked you for video before they book you? And I said, no couple has ever asked me for video of me officiating. Then the person went on to say, is this something that you would maybe ask videographers for and then comply, give couples video of you officiating? This one was tricky for me, and I'm just curious as to what you would say. So Lisa says, yes, she has had couples ask for video of her officiating. So that's there you go. My answer to this, so now you have a choice, because I do have a couple of videos of me officiating, and in fact, I have made them available inside the Academy, in the bonuses section of Unboring Wedding Academy, because I do get officiants asking this all the time. Mark, I'd love to see a video of you officiating. I'd love to see the Unboring Wedding style and system in action. So I have two videos inside the bonuses section of Unboring Wedding Academy. They couldn't be more different. One of them is at the Algonquin inside a ballroom, very controlled, very contained, very spacious. The other one is on like a stormy, rainy, windy day on a bluff. The wind was howling. It was kind of that misty rain with like waves in the background, the ocean, the bay here in New Brunswick. And we were, cold and it was windy. And so I have those available for you to see what it's like for me to officiate, to deal with both environments, things happening off the cuff, really good time. But I have not, I don't know that I would, I've not made those available to a couple. And so I'm just thinking, if a couple asks me, Mark, can I see video of you officiating? And this is what I said to the person who asked this question. I don't think video, like poorly done video, would really do justice to what it's like to be up there being officiated by me, right? So a video is by definition going to water down the experience, right? Now, a lot of times though, I think couples are trying to see what your mannerisms are going to be like when you officiate. So I did say to this person as I thought it through, I'm not sure that I would. I think the question was, would you set up, this is what the officiant asked me, would you set up a camera and video yourself officiating so that you could provide that to couples in the future? And this is where I said, like, no, unless the video quality is very, very good so as to somewhat mitigate what you lose. Like I said, because I just believe that by definition, a video is not going to be as good as the actual experience, period. Because again, you're not emoting up there. You're not doing it for video. You're doing it live. Anytime you're doing anything on video, you need to actually be 10 to 20% more expressive and things like that. Like I'm a certain way on video that if I was like this with my family, they'd be like, whoa, chillax, dude. But that's because of the medium of the camera, right? So making video content now for 9 straight years, week in and week out, I have become a certain way on camera that when you're officiating, it doesn't come through, like just by definition, because you're in person with your couple, you're actually being a certain way in person that you aren't on video. So I would be worried about that, but I would just especially nix the idea of do not set up your own iPhone on a tripod and consider that to be a representation of you officiating. I think it would actually do way more harm than good. I think it's better for you to just say to a couple, no, I don't have any personal video that I've captured. Obviously, couples do hire videographers, you could say, but I have not done that. Now, so this is a question. What then do you like, for example, the videos that I provided are both by professional videographers. I would have to ask the couple and the videographer for permission to share this. The 2 videos that I have inside Unboring Wedding, I have asked the videographers if I could share them with members of my course. So that's why they're not publicly up on YouTube for anyone to see. They did say, yes, you can provide them to your student, your client membership in Unboring Wedding. Great. So you would want to think, do I want to ask a videographer if I could share with my couples? And many are okay with it. And so some of you might even want to put that on your website if you want it, again, with all the proper permissions. But it's got to be, I'm going to just say, it's got to be a really well-produced video, because if it's at all production quality that makes the couple go like, oh, I don't know, well, then you've potentially lost a client there. Like that's where the video actually did more harm than good, right? So you want to make sure that unquestionably any video you provide is really representing you well. So you can either ask the couple and their videographer if you can share it with prospective clients in the future. You would want to screen it, like I say, for your own purpose and say, this is a really great representation of my ceremony. And I would say if it's not an out of the park ceremony, don't show it. In fact, I've had some ceremonies before where the couple said, here's our video, and like the couple weren't that great. Like clients are all different. I know I crushed it. The guests loved it, but the couple's not responding well. Or, sometimes those of us who officiate a lot, what if the couple starts talking during the ceremony to each other and they're sort of half ignoring you? This just happens. People respond different ways during their own ceremony, and it's their ceremony. So no skin off our back, right? No problem. But that's, again, not something that I would want portraying as the experience that I provide. So there are videos that I've gotten that I've said, that's great, but that's not a great ceremony. So I'm never going to show that to anyone. The two ceremonies that I do show clients in Unboring Wedding Academy, I think they're really great. They're a great representation. There's impromptu moments where we laugh and we cry. It's really, really great. So that's the thing about portraying your ceremonies in video. You could either ask the videographer and the couple for permission, or you could hire your own videographer. Again, consider it an investment in your business. Hire a videographer. If you're a wedding vendor, you know many, and make sure it's really high quality. But here's the risk. Like I said, what if you hire this videographer and then the ceremony is not that awesome? That would be really tough, right? And then you're saying, you're kind of, well, I hired this videographer for $1,000. The ceremony was a bit of a letdown. So that is the risk. It's got to be both. I would say personally, in order to show it to a couple who's considering hiring you, it's got to be exceptional production value, and the ceremony has to be awesome. Now you can, and I have the same performance excellence every single time, but sometimes the guests, the crowd is not all that great. You can't be in control of that. Sometimes the couple are like kind of middling about, they're like, yeah, this is great, or they're nervous, or their personalities, they're not one to laugh really hard. They're very self-conscious up there, right? And so if I spend $1,000 on a videographer for this wedding and it was like that, I'd be really disappointed. Now, could you have a videographer kind of on call? Maybe some of you have a spouse or something like that who are great, and you say, look, this couple is really awesome. I think this one's going to be amazing. Or you're okay. You have somebody like that who's okay to maybe, do a video of you doing multiple ceremonies, so the risk isn't as high. Well, that's great. Then you could even splice some together, have a highlight reel of your best moments officiating. But it will take time, and it will be an investment. And like I say, the more money you put into one ceremony, there is more risk that that video won't turn out to be quite the selling point that you want it to be. So these are all things that I said you have to consider before you just offer up a video to a couple. It's quite complex, I would say. But one thing that I would say absolutely don't do is just set up your iPhone and take a video of you officiating. I think it could actually even be cringe, because video as a medium is so sensitive to the room, the expressiveness, other people's emotions, and that kind of thing. You don't want to end up on TikTok for all the wrong reasons, right? Sharing a video that's only so-so of you officiating. It could do more harm than good. I would say no video is better than a video of poor quality. So just keep that in mind. If you do start to get asked more and more for video, then as we discussed here today with hourly rate or diversifying your services, that is something to consider. If you're seeing this trend increase, then you need to think, oh gosh, I think I need video. And then you got to think about, like I say, how to approach that exactly to make sure that that video is an asset that you hope it to be. Let me see what we got here. This is Sarah. My husband joins me at every ceremony to take pictures for social media, and he gives me feedback, good and bad. That's really cool. Okay, so that's what Paul was maybe referring to earlier on. Spouses coming along. I think that's really, really great. I've never had my wife come along to a ceremony. Sabrina, I know some vendors have hired content creators to follow them for day of kind of content. That's an example of what I'm talking about. That's really, really good. We got Mark here. People ask me for videos all the time, especially of my keyboard accompaniments and me singing different melodies, prayer songs, mostly to choose elements of the ceremony. So this is something that's growing where you are, Mark. That's really cool. I do receive multiple requests and plan to ask the video. In the meantime, I refer to my pictures and testimonials. Great, but Lisa, it sounds like you're ready to cook in that department. As the kids say, you're going to get some video going. I have 1 or 2 professionally done videos and a whole bunch of Hoopacam, Cantor Mark videos, my 4K video on a tripod. Okay, cool. So you've taken some and you feel proud of sharing those. Again, it sounds like you've got the high quality. Some people I know are wearing Meta glasses right now. You could put that in your role as well. You send Hoopacam videos to the couple, posted as unlisted on YouTube before the reception is even over as surprise. Oh, so this is where you're sending videos to your couple. So that's cool. And this is amazing. Like it's as a service, an instant surprise replay of their ceremony. This is really cool. I saw an officiant notary who did a mock ceremony for his website. It was very realistic and had it edited well. Okay, that's cool. But you did know that it was a mock ceremony. So he said it was a mock ceremony. That's interesting. I wonder about the effectiveness of that. And like you saw it and you said it was okay. Would this win over a couple? I guess again, that's a sense of like almost like an audition tape. And only you will know, depending on the factors in your market, whether or not that's a good idea or something you want to do. Um, get every videographer to give you raw footage and their ceremony edits, then crank out a highlight reel. Yep, that's really good too. And let's see, he showed clips of the mock ceremony, not the full ceremony. Okay. It is time. I will ask a videographer this year. Great, Lisa. So hopefully you kind of took into account, like I say, the day of content is really cool. If you can get a professional content maker to be taking pictures or maybe even vertical video, even if it's a bit more raw, that's probably really cool. Again, as long as it's produced really well, people who know how to make really great content. And if it's designed for social, then that's really good too. You just want to make sure that it's not cringy and cheesy, poor sound, not at a good angle. Like I say, this is something that you need to put into the hands of professionals and people who know what they were doing. It was an interview on AMM. We thought it was real. Then he told us it was mock. Okay, so you actually thought it was real. Okay, that's good. That's an interesting approach. I've said before, like I don't know if you're noticed, like on YouTube nowadays, every ad that comes up on YouTube is somebody on stage talking about their product. I don't care if it's Tai Chi or erectile dysfunction pills or public speaking. Like, it's just so interesting to me now that clearly people are creating AI generated ads on YouTube. Their faces are lit a certain way. There's always like, it looks like they're doing a TED talk, and you can tell that it's artificial. You can absolutely tell. But these people put a suit on or something and they do their thing in front of a camera, and then AI makes it look like they're on a stage in front of a crowd. And I find that absolutely deceiving and repulsive, and I can see through it. I think it's meant to catch your eye. Oh, this person did this presentation on hair loss and they're on a stage at some conference. No, they're not. It's AI, right? So in the age of AI, I would say either be intentional, like be very clear that what I'm doing here is a mock ceremony, or don't do it at all, or make sure that it's authentic, but again, not cheesy. Because I'm going to say, like, as AI continues to take off, I think authenticity is going to be the most important quality of every professional, being authentic. And so, this kind of thing where, you can enhance things with AI, but like, if you were never on a stage giving that talk and AI is making it look like you were, I don't see the need for that. It makes you look like more of an authority than you are. So that's just a bit of a phenomenon right now. A callback to a rabbinical story about a single light flowing from the married couple. Nice. I really like that. Scary. Most people in America can't tell. Yeah, that's right. Faux TED Talks by AI. Puke. Yeah. Like, just look for it now and you'll see. Like, oh, it's just so funny. It's something any of us can make. We can all pretend that we spoke at a conference of 2,000 people on a dark stage. This is where we live now. All right, friends, that's it. I didn't get any questions in the chat today, but thank you for joining. I did get some in email again, so the video question and the how do I break out my time. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Love spending this time with you. I will be here next week. So if you got another week, if you want to think about, okay, I've got a vision, I've got a wedding, I'll ask Mark on the Thursday. I'm going to be here noon Eastern next week. If you want to jump into Unboring Wedding Academy, become a member of the course, please do. That's unboringweddingacademy.com. I have the pro course, unboringweddingacademy.com/pro. And I have Officiantly that I showed you here today that cuts down, I'd say, half the time now. It's taken hours and hours off the process. That's officiant.ly. You do get to use that when you become a member of Unboring Wedding Academy. One ceremony, full feature. The reason why I did that is if you wanted if you didn't want to use multiple ceremonies, a lot of people purchase the course and they say, I'm only doing this once for my niece. Well, I wanted you to be able to use Officiantly, and I didn't want to charge you more for that. So that's why I put it into Unboring Wedding Academy. It's always been $297 since I launched it. The price of Academy has been the same since 2017. Believe it or not, I have not raised the price, but I have packed it with more and more value. I've updated it 3 times, added more bonuses, and now Officiantly is in there. And so that's why, again, I've put one ceremony in there on Officiantly because I want you to use the platform if that's the only ceremony you ever want to do. But if you want to go on and do more, then you can upgrade to unlimited ceremonies for a year for $179 for the year. Again, unlimited ceremonies. That accesses the template feature where you upload your own templates in the software and everything. So that's officiant.ly for access to Officiantly in that way. Love being on this journey with you, friends. Thank you so much. I will be here next week once again. Have a great weekend, rest of your week. First day of spring for those of us in this hemisphere is tomorrow. So enjoy it as our teeth chatter and we await for warmer temperatures, except for those of you who are already in 90 degrees. So happy for you. Have a wonderful week. And until I see you next week, marry on. Cheers, friends.